So I thought it's been quite a long time since I did What's Inside the Box. And I realised I haven't done What's Inside the Box on the R8M. So this is the Roland R-8M. It's currently plugged in. I'm going to switch it off like so I can unplug it. Hang on a sec. Because this was obviously a Continental version of this, because it's got a Continental plug, and I've been using it with one of these things. So as part of the maintenance I'm going to do on this, I'm going to cut that off. And I will be putting a standard proper British 3-pin plug on this, because I don't like using these things in the studio. Plus the fact that I'm breaking my own rules at the moment, because that is a 13 amp fuse, and that needs to be, for this, 15 watts. I really probably should put a 1 amp fuse in there. And even at 1 amp, I mean, that's still way too many volts or watts than this thing actually needs. So here we are. What's inside the box? The Roland R-8M. So with many other Roland products, when we start looking at how to get into the box, you find there is 1, 2, 3 bolts there, one there. There it is. One on the back of the unit there, one there, and a repeat down this side of the bolts there and there. So I shall start undoing the bolts. Right, so that's all the bolts undone, so this should now just slide to the back like it does, and then it should then just lift up, and there we go. So, and let's turn this round. Oops. And let's point that up to, I'm just going to find something to prop this up with. Now, one of the things that has surprised me about this is, having looked at a number of these different modules, is in this one actually how big the power supply is. There's the transformer, and it actually occupies quite a large area. But the design is fairly standard for sort of Roland modules of this time, which is sort of the power supply is on the, as you look at it, left front from the front on the right hand side, and then there's normally a bar that runs to the power switch. Now on a lot of the other modules, this power switch is right the way back here. So on this particular module, it's sort of kind of on its own little PCB right up here, and then they've had to put a piece of metal in there to effectively to hold this in place when it's being switched on and off. Very interesting. In terms of the circuit board itself, this is the main motherboard for the unit, and this is the firmware unit. This has, and the way you read this is where the blobs are. So if you excuse my head while I take my glasses off so I can read it properly. I think this is 104 in terms of the version number, because that's where the red blobs are. There is a fair amount of ribbons going from the board, all of which seem to be fairly well seated. And along the back here, so we have, these are effectively the 3 in, out and through MIDI, and then you have the, over here, this is the left and right channel, left and right, and then there are, sorry, left and right, that's the left and that's the right, and then we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. Yeah, 6. Counting is not my strong point at the moment. So there are 6 effective individual assignable outs on this thing. And then there is a battery there, which is a standard, by the looks of it, CR2032 battery for holding the memory configs on this unit. But relatively clean. I mean, I've not actually pulled the lid off this, so I'm actually quite impressed. It is very, very clean for something of this age. Most times when I pull the lid off, these are absolutely caked in dust, but this is actually very clean, so it's obviously been well looked after in the studio, although I have noticed that this bracket at the end here is slightly bent. So if I just move that over a little bit more, you can see that that is just a tad bent. It's probably easier if I do that and hold it to the camera like that. It's not easily reconcilable, but it is just a tad bit bent. So there you go. There is this is the card reader. Now 4 card readers on this, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one is individually ribboned by the looks of it onto the board. So there you go. The RM8 or R8M. So this is the rack mount version of the R8. One of the interesting things here is that these pieces of metal are designed to make contact with the lid to ensure that there is a Faraday cage going on, plus the fact there are these magnets on the input and the output, so obviously to stop interference. Whether they're an original feature or whether they're something that's been aftermarket added, that's very interesting. But we shall see. But there you go, inside of the RM8. I shall now put it back together. So I said I was going to put this back together, but I'm really intrigued by this at the back here. So, and the reason why I'm intrigued by it is because obviously when you put the lid on, the lid is screwed into the chassis, which means that it effectively creates its own Faraday cage, which should stop signals. But you've got these very thin aluminium, I would say, tabs here that are bolted to the board there, and there, and are making contact with this back piece here and potentially with the lid when it goes on. And I am intrigued why Roland felt it was necessary to do that on this unit, given that I've seen many other effects units and what have you where Roland this hasn't actually been in place. And I said, given the fact that, this is bolted to the chassis, and then obviously it's also bolted to this back plate. There's 2 screws here, which bolt this to the back. Why they felt it was necessary to have this additional shielding around the outputs. Very, very interesting. But now I will put it back together. There you go, the Roland R-8M, what's inside the box. Till next time. If you liked the content of the video you've just seen, please give it a thumbs up. It just helps the YouTube algorithm with its selection process. If you want to leave a comment, please feel free to do that as well. Down below somewhere should be the ability to do that. I do try to respond to all the comments that are raised on the channel. Sometimes it takes me a few weeks because of what I'm doing, and I'm getting more and more comments and
questions raised on the channel, so it just takes sometimes a little bit of time to do a bit of research. If you want to be notified when I put more rants, mailbergs, and videos about this sort of legacy tech and even modern tech on the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon, and you'll be notified by YouTube when stuff happens. I try to publish at least 2 times a week, sometimes more, sometimes less. Until next time, bye-bye.